Welcome to the Deep Dive, your essential shortcut to being instantly well-informed. Today, we're really getting into something complex, a source that pulls together geopolitics, history, tech, and some pretty high-level political commentary about a specific law.
That's right. We're looking at an assessment what the author calls the Digital Gulag.
Mm.
And it really centers on a bill the source says President Trump signed on July 4th, 2025. They've titled it the Big Beautiful Bill.
Right, maybe a bit ironic. So we're basically unpacking this commentary, impartially, of course. The view is that this bill, whatever its actual details, is really just one more step towards what they call a digital world order. We need to explore these claims about surveillance, political theater, and there's this fascinating bit at the end about how controversial research, like the author's own, gets monitored online.
Exactly. It's presented as this unified theory. It connects banking laws from, centuries ago to future genetic tracking. And because it's so specific and, yeah, highly charged, we really need to define these concepts carefully so you, the listener, can follow the argument.
Absolutely. Let's start right there. This core idea, the digital gulag. What does the author actually mean by that, and why is AI so crucial?
Well, the Digital Gulag, as defined here, is basically a system of total nonstop surveillance,
Yeah.
all driven by AI. The argument is that this coming digital new world order, it needs AI.
Yeah.
Because, well, there's just no way any number of people could track 8 billion humans.
Right. The sheer scale demands the tech, and the author uses a pretty stark quote about this, doesn't he?
Yes, they quote Larry Ellison, the Oracle founder. He apparently said citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the claim is this involves digitizing everything, your money, your medical info, all your personal data, total digitization.
Okay, and this is where it gets really specific, almost into sci-fi territory, linking it to our biology. How does that work, according to the source?
It gets very specific. The claim is that the digital gulag aims to merge with the genetic framework inside your body, biometrically, and it explicitly connects this potential control system to mRNA injections.
Wait, hold on. How does the author make that leap? From, vaccine tech to some kind of high-level AI initiative, that feels like a big jump.
That's really the core synthesis here. The source directly links mRNA shots to something called Trump's Stargate AI initiative.
Uh-huh.
Now, the how isn't detailed scientifically, but the claim is that this AI system, supposedly for advanced military or even cosmic stuff, is being woven into vaccine distribution. Why? To create the global biometric index needed for this total surveillance state, it's merging the body via mRNA and the data network via AI. That's the gulag, according to this author.
Wow. Okay. That is a very bold theory. And to sort of back this up, to give it this sense of destiny almost, the author uses historical cycles, numerology.
Yeah, that's a big part of the structure. They do this calculation involving two key dates. First, the 1792 Coin Act, when the U.S. government first started printing its own money. And second, the supposed 2025 bill.
Okay. And the time between 1792 and 2025 is?
Calculated as exactly 7 cycles of 33 years. And the number 33, the source points out, is seen as significant in, well, several circles: Masonic, Luciferian, biblical, even mathematical. The implication is the timing isn't random. It's part of some repeating intentional pattern.
And there's another cycle too, right? A 90-year one, linking 1935 to 2025.
Exactly, which lets the author bring in more biblical numerology. The number 9, treating the 0 as just a placeholder, is linked, in this interpretation, to sorcery in days of calamity. They mention Ev 9, the date associated with the destruction of the temples in Jerusalem. So using these cycles frames the 2025 bill as this almost preordained historical turning point.
So if the control mechanism is primarily digital and monetary, we need to look at the money side, the symbolism. Where does that analysis start?
It starts with losing the gold standard. That's seen as the first step towards losing financial independence. The source highlights 2 key dates: 1933, when the U.S. went off gold domestically under FDR, and 1971 internationally under Nixon. This sets the stage for manipulating currency without that backing.
And the author even wonders if, after some predicted rapture reset, currencies might go back to gold. But the real focus, symbolically, is the dollar bill itself, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The claim is that back in 1935, Roosevelt's vice president, identified by the author as a high-ranking Mason, got the reverse side of the Great Seal put onto the dollar bill. This is interpreted as a signal, a sign showing who really controlled the U.S. and its money supply then.
Okay, so let's break down those symbols. The pyramid, the one that's not finished.
Right. The source calls it the Luciferian truncated pyramid. It's topped by the Eye of Providence, which they straight up call Lucifer's Eye. It's got 1776 in Roman numerals at the base.
Yeah.
But the key is that it's interrupted. It's missing the capstone. The author sees this as a direct reference and homage even to the Tower of Babel from the Bible.
Ah, the Tower of Babel, where God, or YHVH, stopped Nimrod's big project, which the author calls Nimrod's enterprise.
Exactly. And the author points out that the word enterprise actually appears on some versions of that seal design. So the interpretation is that the seal celebrates this ongoing global project for control, one that was stopped once but is now being finished through this digital gulag.
And even the dollar sign itself, the S with the line, that gets analyzed too.
It does. The source interprets that symbol as a veiled serpent on a pole and links it straight to the caduceus, the symbol of the Greek god Mercury, who is the god of money, yes, but also medicine and thievery.
So it ties money, medicine, and deceit together symbolically, which connects back to the themes of the digital gulag.
Precisely. Money and medicine, it's presented as a complete symbolic package.
Okay, so moving from symbols in history to present-day politics, the source is deeply cynical about the political system itself.
Oh, absolutely. Calls it an illusion of choice or a false dichotomy. Like choosing Coke or Pepsi. Different branding. Same outcome, maybe. The author basically says they don't trust the government. Doesn't matter who's in the White House. Both sides are seen as pushing things towards tyranny.
And they give a very specific example to illustrate this point. Right?
Yeah, a very clear one. The COVID-19 vaccine rollout. They detail how President Trump used the military for the supply chain.
Okay.
But then Biden and Harris come in. And even though they'd previously criticized Trump's approach, the source says they did an immediate about-face and mandated the vaccine.
So the argument is, Republican builds the infrastructure, Democrat enforces the mandate. The policy goal, advancing control, stays the same, despite the political show.
That's the interpretation. And it goes further. Current events, like what the source calls Alligator, Alcatraz, or those very public IC raids, they're seen as practice runs, dress rehearsals for what the author predicts is coming post-rapture.
So not just about immigration policy, but about getting the public used to seeing military or paramilitary forces operating domestically.
That's the idea, acclimatizing people.
Yeah.
And the historical parallel drawn is intense. The source compares it to how ordinary citizens in Nazi Germany, specifically mentioning church-going Lutherans and Catholics, largely stayed silent when Jewish people and others were marginalized and publicly detained.
So normalizing the presence of force is seen as psychological groundwork for this future gulag system.
That's the connection being made, yes.
Okay, shifting gears quite a bit now. The last part of the source is different. The author actually investigates whether their own research is being monitored. They ask an AI.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It moves from commentary to a sort of real-world test. And the AI's response, it basically confirms it. It says, yes, government and research agencies run automated web crawlers. They automatically scoop up open source content, like the author's writings. It's theme-based, automated, not necessarily personal targeting.
Right. And the AI even listed specific categories of the author's work that would likely get flagged automatically. What were they?
Okay, first was Middle East prophecy. Makes sense, right?
Huh.
Anything about regional stability, especially involving Israel or Jerusalem, gets monitored.
Then there was astronomy and planetary alignment theories. Why track stuff like Planet X?
Well, partly for space situational awareness, but maybe more importantly, for tracking public perception. If narratives about, say, Nibiru go viral, that could cause panic or social disruption. Agencies want to know about that.
Okay, third category.
Economic collapse timelines. That's pretty straightforward. Predictions that could spook markets, cause bank runs, or fuel political movements are definitely watched.
And then a very specific one. Sacred sites and geographic triangulations.
Yeah. If someone is mapping sensitive spots, like the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, that can trigger automated geospatial intelligence systems. They're looking for focus on key geopolitical locations.
And finally, planetary catastrophes.
Right, which ties back to the panic idea. Disaster preparedness agencies watch for narratives about catastrophes that could cause hysteria or be exploited for misinformation during a real crisis.
So the takeaway is the author's work is being captured in these data sweeps, not because agencies necessarily buy the Luciferian pyramid stuff,
Probably not.
but because the topics Middle East conflict, economic instability, potential social panic, sensitive locations fall directly into categories that intelligence systems monitor for strategic reasons using keywords and themes. Thousands of sources get swept up this way.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot. A single theory connecting monetary symbols from history, numerology, a specific future bill,
Yeah.
all leading to this idea of a digital gulag. and ending with a confirmation, essentially, that the themes of this kind of research are indeed monitored automatically.
So for you, the learner, what does all this mean? It's easy to get lost in the details or overwhelmed by the cynicism, but the core themes the author pushes are about this perceived loss of real choice and the undeniable growth of digital and potentially biometric surveillance power.
Which leads to a really interesting question, actually, based on something else the source mentions. If the author believes that 90% of what really impacts your daily life, property taxes, local votes, city stuff, is decided locally, then where are the real points of leverage for change? Especially you accept the author's view of this larger, centrally controlled, false dichotomy at the top.
Yeah, that's a good question. And one final thought for you to maybe chew on after this. If, as the source claims, the world is already a kind of prison planet, how does AI fundamentally change the nature of that prison? Does it just make the bars invisible, or does it make escape truly impossible in a way historical control systems like the original gulags never could? Something to think about.